Hi, I'm Victoria. Welcome to my channel. If I look tired, it's because it's 4 in the morning. But if you haven't been keeping up, we are reaching the end of Battle of the Booktubers Championship, and I am so sad. But it has been such an amazing time, and for this last video, we actually have something a little bit different. In addition to the recommendations that I had to read from each booktuber, we also did something called our Battle Recs. So each booktuber recommended me one book, and then I had to pick two from there that looked the most interesting to me or that I wanted to read, and whatever I ended up reading, those will be kind of bonus points, I guess you could say, towards their final scores. Now the 4 books I was recommended are The Will of the Many by James Islington, The Failures by Benjamin Lyer, Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez, and I'm blind. The Last Dragon on Mars by Scott. I can't see it. I was looking at a picture on there, and yeah. So I, for some insane reason, made things as hard as possible on myself and chose to go with huge books as my 2 options. So I went with The Failures and The Will of the Many. The Will of the Many has been on my TBR for so long. I've been wanting to read it forever. And then I had heard of The Failures just knowing when it was going to be coming out and stuff, that it looked kind of interesting, but I hadn't heard any feedback about it and stuff. I hadn't heard anyone talking about it. So I was still interested in that. And they're both around the same size. So here is The Will of Many right here. It's 620 pages, and the other one, I don't know the exact number count off my head, but they're the same thickness. And I don't know why I chose to do this to actually, I do know why. What it is I thought being forced to read them for this competition would make sure that I got around to them, because I have a habit of letting myself get intimidated by the big books and stuff, even though a lot of the times I end up really liking them. So yeah, that's one of the big reasons why I went with the choices that I did. But let's just jump straight into it, and I'm gonna be reading The Failures first. So I will check in with you guys in a little while. Okay, so the audiobook for this story, The Failures by Benjamin Lyer, it says it's 26 hours and 41 minutes long, and I'm now 9 hours and 11 minutes into it. So around a third, a little past, something like that. And I am having a good time with it. I feel like this is going to be one of those books where the pieces just really come together in the end. It's already starting to bring everything together. I wouldn't say everything. It's already starting to bring stuff together at the point that I'm at. But I just have a feeling that it's just really one of those stories that, because it has the different plot lines and everything. And I think that the further we get, the more intersected everything's gonna be. I'm enjoying this quite a bit so far. I don't know if I would consider it a favorite at this point. The world that this story takes place in is really confusing but fascinating at the same time. It's this interesting blend of almost apocalyptic, and then there's automaton and magic, and at times things feel classic fantasy world vibe, and then other times it can be kind of left field surrealist. I don't know. It just has a bunch of different things going on in the world building, and I find the combination of it really fascinating. Let me go into what it says that it's about, on the description of the book. It says, "Welcome to the Wanderlands. A vast machine made for reasons unknown, the Wanderlands was broken long ago. First went the sky, splintering and cracking, and then very slowly the whole machine, the whole world began to go dark. Meet the Failures. Following the summons of a strange dream, a scattering of adventurers, degenerates, and children find themselves drawn toward the same place, the vast underground keep. They will discover there that they have been called for a purpose, and that purpose could be the destruction of everything they love. The end is nigh. For below the keep, imprisoned in the greatest cage ever built by magicians and gods, lies the buried giant. It is the most powerful of its kind, and its purpose is the annihilation of all civilization. But any kind of power, no matter how terrible, is precious in the dimming wanderlands, and those that crave it are making their moves. All machines can be broken, and the final cracks are spreading. It will take only the careless actions of two cheerful monsters to tip the wanderlands toward an endless dark, or help it find its way back to the light. So it talks about the Wanderlands being a machine, but my understanding of it as I'm reading is it's like a mountain, and it also has like a mountain on the cover and stuff. So I'm not 100% sure what it means by a machine. Maybe it's just like the interior workings of it, or maybe it's something that I haven't come to understand yet, you know? But basically we have 3 plot lines. We have one that follows this like kind of has-been hero chick. Back when she was a kid, she sort of like saved the world, and then now it's like 20 years later and she's got like her gang of killers. And then we also have a plot line where we're following these 2 people, this guy and this girl, that were from another world. And then another plot line where we're following this boy who hates school, is jealous of his brother, and like feels like he's always in his shadow. And then he's one of the boys that receives like those dreams that it talked about, and basically he wants to be like the next hero. And then we have a group of people. I think we're following this guy named West, but it's like the plot line is like this group of people that are brought together randomly, like they were summoned by this host who's trying to like enlist them to help with this mission they have planned. I don't want to like go too into detail with things, but like those are the different storylines, I guess, that we have in here. And so far, I think I'm actually enjoying all of them except for that last one where it was like the group brought together for the mission. And I think that's mostly just like needing more time with them, I think. I feel like we've probably had more page time with the other point of views, so that could possibly change. Character development wise, I feel like this author is doing a good job, but I wouldn't say it's like character focused story, but I would say that it is like stronger character building wise than a lot of other like plot driven adult fantasy stories that I've read. And I also think that the author has done a good job at creating personalities that feel unique and intriguing without kind of leaning towards like tropiness, you know? They feel unique without like making me cringe, I guess. I'm not quite at a point where I feel like emotionally invested, but I am really enjoying it, and I think that there's potential that this story could bring its like little plot lines and stuff together in a way that like ends up making me love this book. I'm hoping that it ends up getting to that point, but I guess we'll just have to see. So I will read some more and check in with you guys in a while. We are back, and I am rocking old school jeans and a dress today. But I am now, let's see, 16 hours, 9 minutes into this audiobook. So I have like 10 and a half hours left to go. I'm a little bit less than the, I almost said distance, but like the spot that I would normally stop at. I try to do like 2/3, but it's my last day of my work week right now, and so I'm hoping, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to finish the audiobook tonight while I'm at work. So like I wanted to check in now, that way I didn't need to like stop and stuff later. But I'm having such a good time with this book. I don't know if I would consider it a new favorite. I don't think it's quite at that point, but it's like really high up there. I would say I think the main reason why it's not like quite at that point for me is just because we're following so many different POVs. While I am really enjoying all of the different things like views and stuff that we're getting, I think that when you have like that many POVs, especially in one book compared to like a series like of books that you've already read through, there's not necessarily quite enough time to emotionally connect with everyone. But this book does a good job of having that happen, but like still having it be like enough fun and keeping the plot going and everything that it's not really too much of an issue. Like sometimes when there's like a lot of POVs, you know, it sometimes like will cover the same thing in multiple ones, or some of them are just boring, and I'm not really having those kind of problems. So I'm really happy about that. The one POV that I had talked about before with the group that I was like a little bit unsure about, I'm still kind of feeling the same way because they really aren't getting the same screen time, you know? But honestly, that might be for the best. That way I can just continue having a really good time, you know? Because all the ones that we are getting, I'm really like having a blast with. There is another one, so there's quite a bit like going on. But the biggest thing I think I like about this book is, I don't know if sense of wonder is quite right. I feel like this like almost gives me similar feelings to how like in fairy tale inspired stories there's like that sense of wonder feeling. I think it has to do with the soft magic system that you typically see in everything, and so this almost gives me that similar feeling. Obviously it's more in depth and like has a lot more going on than a lot of fairy tale retellings do, but I think it's because we haven't really gotten to like map out how everything works, like the magic systems, things going on in the world. Like there's still a lot of mystery, and so that mixed with the unique elements and things that are in it, I feel like just are really great. So like I really like certain things, like how there's these mechanical butterflies with like paper wings and stuff. That was in the like early in the book and stuff that we got to see that starting out. And then there'll be like floating lights and automaton. And then there's the mystery of like, what is the bad in this book? And then are like gods real and everything? And there's just so many questions, and the way the author does it doesn't leave me like feeling frustrated. It leaves me like excited. So I don't know, I'm pretty sure this is his debut book. The Failures is his first published novel. So I just find that really impressive, honestly. The only way I could see me having bad feelings at the end of this book is if by the end it's like I'm left with a feeling that the author did not bring all of the different elements and point of views and stuff together in a way that makes sense to me. But I don't think that that's gonna happen. So I'm really excited to finish this book, and I will check in with you guys when I'm done. Okay, so I finished The Failures by Benjamin Lyer. I had a really good time with this book. So, you know, I had talked about how one of my concerns, like the only thing I could see possibly being an issue for me with this book is if all of the different POVs and like plot lines and stuff that we saw going on, if the author wasn't able to bring it all together solidly at the end. And thankfully, I can say that that was not an issue with this book. He did a really good job. Plot twist wise, I wouldn't say it was anything crazy, like a huge shock. I remember like when I was reading a certain point, it surprised me a little bit. Like I was just like, oh, but I wasn't like, wow, groundbreaking, you know? But that's okay. The author made like solid choices. I will say, I do think I could know the characters better than I do from this book. I like the characters in this book a lot. I think that like I said before, I'm pretty sure the author did a good job at making unique personalities without like make them feel extreme or silly or anything like I sometimes see in fantasy books. And sometimes that doesn't bother me, but other times, you know, I want them to feel more like real people, and I feel like the author did a good job with that here. But I could also understand them more, and it is a series. This is book 1. I don't know how many are going to be in this, but this is the only one that's out right now. Right now I am of the mindset that I do want to continue this series, but I also could see when I'm picking up book 2 and not having the same hold on me, I guess, that this book did. I don't know what's making me say that. It's just like a possibility that I could foresee for this series, whereas like other series, you know, it's like I expect the next book is going to be like a home run. That being said, I am not going to like, you know, avoid book 2 over like a made up worry in my head. So I'm definitely still excited. I want to see more of the characters, and definitely the world. The world that this is in is really interesting to me, and I'm still a little bit confused about it. And I think that that's, you know, intentional, either because it's a series, like maybe they're going to do more revealing stuff later on, or just for, like, I was talking about, like, that sense of wonder feeling. I don't know if that's like the goal of the authors trying to give that, or if I just got lucky in enjoying some of the lack of information. But yeah, it was a really fun time. If we're guessing who gave me this recommendation for the Battle Rec, since out of the 4, you know, each one was a different person, I am going to guess Leandra. And I don't really know why I'm guessing Leandra, because I tried to snoop and stuff on Goodreads, and it didn't, if I remember correctly, I don't think any of the contestants had like marked this as read or rated it or anything. So I think that this is one that like no one has read out of my 4 competitors, but out of like the 4 books that I got, I think that this is the most likely one that she would have picked. I don't know. And then for rating, I am gonna go with a 4.75, because really solid, had an amazing time, but you know, there was a little bit more that I wish I had gotten to know about the world and the characters, and I don't have 100% like confidence that the sequel will be a hitter. Hopefully it will, you know, but so because of those 2 things, I feel like I can't like call it a solid 5-star read, but it was still so much fun. Now, on to my next battle read. I am going to be reading The Will of the Many by James Islington. I have been wanting to read this for so long. This is one that I actually owned before getting recommended this book, and it had just been sitting on my shelf forever, and my Louis doesn't carry an audiobook for this, so it's also going to be a physical read. But I will read a little bit and then check in with you guys soon. Okay, you get to see me being all awkward talking in public. I am on page 216 of The Will of the Many. It's like, the sun just changed. I don't know what I look like right now, but I'm like a third of the way, a little bit past of the way through this book. It's split into parts, and so I just read until I got done with the first part. But I was like reading at this little shopping center with like a little park in it, and I got some froyo, so that's what I've been doing. But I've been really enjoying my time with this book so far. I'm feeling like very similar things from this to the Red Rising series. Not exact, but like the setup has a similar feeling. And then also I feel like the writing style is a little bit similar. So we're following this boy named This, and he lives in this empire called, actually I don't remember what it's formally called, but he calls it the Hierarchy. And in the Hierarchy there's this sort of magic system that involves kind of like a pyramid of will. And so the people at the bottom of the pyramid, they cede half of their will to someone in the next up level. So, you know, at each level people are getting progressively, so, you know, it works like a pyramid, and then the people at the top are obviously like the most powerful and stuff. Well, our main character originally was from this kingdom called Sus, I think, and he was a prince. And I guess the Hierarchy is like a very expansionist type of kingdom. When we start out, he lives at an orphanage and works at this sort of prison. They're not really like normal prisoners. They like get their will sucked out of them and like given to someone. I don't know. But so he does that, and then for like fun and earning money, he also joins in these like underground fights and stuff. Well, one day this guy who's in like the 5th level, so he's like, you know, pretty high up there and everything, he ends up adopting him and is basically trying to infiltrate him into this like academy where all of like the rich, higher ranked people's kids go. And the only reason why this is able to work is because the academy, like none of the kids are involved with like will seeding, or I believe that's the term. So they're not using like other people's will or giving their will away or anything. So That way they're all kind of like on an even ground. And that works well for Vis because he is like adamant like to avoid being a part of that process and everything. But on Vis and his new dad's way to visit the academy just to like see what it all is and also to like formalize his application for entry, they end up getting attacked. And it's really cool. They have like these floating car things, but they end up getting attacked, and it's by these rebels who are also trying to get Vis to like be their spy. So it's like everyone's kind of wanting things from him right now. And so we end up having some like training stuff going on, and at the end of part 1 we're about to actually go and be a resident at the school. So far I'm kind of interested in the world building. Like the society itself is like kind of plain, I feel like, but the magic system, like with how the will works and the whole pyramid scheme of it, I find interesting. This as a character I really like, and he's actually pretty funny, at least to me. I find he has like a dry sense of humor. I marked a couple spots. One second. Oh yeah, there was one point where he had like gotten injured, and his new dad figure, I don't know how to say this guy's name, it's like Ulcisor or something, asked him, are you going to be able to manage? And this just like deadpans, easier if you carry me. And so I just thought that was really funny. But yeah, so I've been enjoying it. I think we haven't really gotten to the most exciting stuff. There's been a couple scenes that are like exciting, but I like the writing style, the main character's personality, and the magic system. Those are like the 3 winning things, I guess, for me. And I'll keep reading, and I'll check in with you guys in a little while. Sorry, you can probably hear the dryer in the background, but I needed to do this check-in so I can keep reading. I'm now a little bit over 2/3 of the way. I finished part 2, so I'm now on page 439, and there's 620 pages in this book. I'm still having a really good time with it. I really like this and a couple other of the characters' sense of humor. That kind of like dry, deadpanned, like one-liners. That's something I really enjoy, so I've been enjoying that. As for what's going on, so I don't know, like I feel like the basic idea of what's happening in this book is a pretty generic one, particularly in this section that I just read with the whole school setting and stuff. Like I wouldn't say that it's anything wholly groundbreaking, but the way the author does it, it still keeps it feeling fresh and exciting, and you want to see like what's going to happen next and everything. But you know, with school setting fantasy stories, I feel like it's generally, you know, we have the classes sorting out like peer dynamics and how things are going to work with them, and like making new friends, and probably a problem teacher, and maybe there's like a mystery of the school, particularly with fantasy school settings. And so like when you break it down into the basics, it's not anything new. I mean, like what's new when it comes to books, you know? It's not anything like anything crazy, but it's still enjoyable, like the way the author does it. He's definitely a talented writer, and I am really enjoying our main character. I don't think there's even been one point where I'm like, oh, this character's so dumb, you know? Like I haven't had that, and that's like a common feeling for me, especially since our main character is like 17, I think, right now. So I find that really impressive that the author has managed to do kind of well-known tropey things, but not fall into like the pitfalls that I normally see with those, you know? And I also really like, you know, our main character, he has this background where he's very knowledgeable about a decent amount of stuff, especially for having come from being an orphan. His background from before that has really elevated him to a level where he's able to like, you know, stand with or even higher than these people in this elite school, like depending on, you know, what point of the story we're looking at. But so even though he has this knowledge, I like that the author has points where the character is like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this. I've done this before. And then we see him fail, and it's like, oh yeah, it has been a few years since I put that to practice. Kind of dumb of me to think I could still do that right now. So I really like that. And I also really like that even though there are characters that have a problem with him for varying reasons, majority of the time I can understand the reasons. And then also they're beyond just, oh, you used to be poor. You know, like I feel like in these school setting stories, like fantasy stories, I feel like that's a big thing that I often see is like just based off of classism is what tends to be like the main cause, I guess, of problems between the main character and others. Honestly, I feel like my only real complaint about this book is how hard it's been for me to read it. Like, it's not a hard to read book. The writing style I feel like is very accessible. That's part of why I think, you know, the plot and then the writing style I think is what makes it feel like it has quite a bit of similarities to Red Rising. When I read other books, I can read like 300 or so pages in one day, like just sitting there going nonstop. And then this book, it's like a slog for me to read like 70 pages in a day. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because I'm trying to make sure I'm absorbing everything, but I'm having such a hard time just getting through it. And the worst part of that is it is killing my shoulder. Like, you know, I'm either reading in this papasan chair, which is kind of like at a curve, I guess, and then reading in bed and stuff. And I just like, I see hot patches because my shoulder has been hurting so much. Yeah. The past couple of days, I've been sleeping terrible, and I think it's a mixture of feeling like I need to get through this because this is my last Battle of the Booktuber book that I need to read, and then just physically reading it, and it's a big book, and then not really being able to get comfortable, I guess, and having a time of it getting through this book. So physically, I'm in pain because of this book. But story-wise, I'm having a really good time. I definitely see myself reading the second book, but I don't know if I would consider this like at favorite level, at least so far. That could change with the ending, like if it's just like an amazing ending. Oh, and also there was a plot twist in here that I guess wasn't like impossible to imagine, but it definitely threw me for a loop. So I was pleasantly surprised by that too, I guess. But yeah, so I will finish this book. I got like that much left and check in with you guys when I'm done. Bye. I finished The Will of the Many. I'm tired. But I had a good time with this. For the majority, I don't know if the majority, for like half the book, I was feeling like, yeah, this is good, you know? I was having a good time, but I wasn't like wowed, you know? But then other parts I was like, oh yeah, this is really good. But then this author knows how to do a hook, because the end of this book, I am really excited to read book 2. I don't think it's out yet, but I cannot wait for it to get out. But aside from that, like, last awesome bit, I spent a lot of time just, it felt very kind of familiar in what was happening, but then like the writing style kept it fresh. So I was still like, I was having a good time even with nothing being like totally crazy flooring me, you know? So I don't really have complaints about the storyline, and the magic system I think is really cool, like the world building done with that. I thought that was done really cool, but the overall plot line, story beats, you know, I was like, okay, I don't know, I'm left with like mixed feelings because I really enjoyed this, but I don't really get, like, I feel like a lot of people are like, this is like the peak of fantasy. I've heard like so many amazing things about this, and it is good. I just don't know if it's that good. But there was a couple plot twists throughout the book that got me by surprise, and I thought it was funny, liked the main characters. So yeah, all I really have to say is I liked everything about it except like the familiarity of it, I guess. But I guess if you haven't read other things, then you wouldn't have that issue. So then it would be like just completely amazing. You know what I mean? This book is very long, and the other stories that I've read that give me similar things, I feel like have been shorter, like quite a bit shorter. And I feel like that works for and against this book. I feel like we really got to delve into the world in the limited scope, you know, that it's set in, taking place in this school and everything, and we got to know the characters. But I think working against it is there are times when I was reading and I was like, okay, but I've read quite a bit since the last time I sat and thought about this. Like I've done quite a bit of reading, but it doesn't feel like a ton has really happened. And there's a lot that happens in this book. It's just, is there a lot that happens in it for 620 pages? You know what I mean? So I'm ending this with a feeling of for sure going to continue the series, but it doesn't rank as like a favorite book of all time. Rating wise, I think I am gonna give this a 4.5. I had felt that way for like the last half of the book, but there would be times when I would like waver, like, is that a little too high? But I think that the ending left me feeling a little bit more comfortable with that rating. I do still have like a little bit of hesitancy, something. I'm just having a hard time solidifying my feelings about it. But I feel like a 4.25 is a little too low. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with a 4.5. But yeah, so that is my last battle rec that I have to read. And it's my last Battle of the Booktubers book that I have to read. And I feel like happy and sad at the same time. This was such a cool experience, and like I'm kind of like sad that it's over. But I don't think I've told you guys before, we do have the live show on August 9th, I believe, over on Danny's channel, and it'll be like where you get to see who actually recommended what, who the winner is, and finding out about the unveiling of the masked booktuber and everything. So definitely check that out. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.